Hello and welcome to my devlog series where I'm making a Katamari inspired game called Frogimari, where you play as a round frog and you get to go around and you pick up items. The more items you pick up, the bigger frog you become. Let's not overcomplicate fun. But today I'm going to be doing something that I haven't done a whole lot of, and that is called wireframing. And if you're unaware as to what wireframing is, it is a way to make sure that our ideas aren't insane and that we don't donate a ton of time to them if they are ultimately going to be futile. So I'm at a point in my game where I'm kind of at an impasse as to what to do with some of the mechanics. So I'm going to wireframe out a level and see if what I have in my head actually makes sense. So I have built this kitchen scene here, and I'm actually going to undo all of it and kind of start from scratch. But the backbone of any good game is good gameplay. So even if I have really cute assets, without the actual fun gameplay, then nothing really matters. So it's really important for me to get this right, and for me to get this right now. So one of the ideas that I have for Frogimari that plays off of what Katamari does is that in Katamari, you start out pretty small, and then the more items that you collect, the bigger you get, but also the bigger your world gets and the bigger the level gets. So something that I need to test is, how do I start off with a small world and have it gradually ramp up to be larger, but to do it in a way that you're kind of unaware of the larger world when you're in the smaller world, so that it creates a sense of wonder, but it's also not distracting and it's also not information overload. So let's wipe out all of this first. I'm gonna take all of my assets and I'm actually just gonna put them in a folder in case I want to bring them out later. Try to keep things a little bit organized here. On my actual frog, I need to find a way to keep track of what size he is, and there's not a really reliable way to do this inside of Unity that is accurate. I've seen a lot of people trying to pull the scale, but as you can see, my frog scale right now is at 100, whereas you could have another object that could be at 1, that could be, you know, 10 times the frog size. So there's not a real distinct unit of measurement inside Unity, so it's kind of up to me to decide what that is and what that looks like. We're gonna start off with our really small objects in our smallest version of our frog and kind of see how far we can get. I'm gonna use this little cookie as a sizing guide because at some point I'm gonna need a reference comparatively to the frog for the sizing guide. So on my script here, I'm just going to create a public int, and I'm going to name it size of frog, and I'm going to initialize it at 1, and then we're going to need the size of the other object. So I think I will take this. I'll put this over here. If the size of the frog is greater than or equal to the size of the other object, then we can collect it. If the object is too big, then we won't be able to collect it. So this is the basic idea that we have going on here. So all of the props also need to have a script too that has a number attached to it, and then I need to be able to grab this on collision. So all of these are going to be set to 1, so I should be able to collect them. So then we're going to grab the size of the other object, so I'm just going to do debug statement here. Oh my gosh, so I need to change the mass on the frog though. It is so heavy. Just do like 0.5. Just cut that in half. Oh yeah, that's much better. He's actually a little unhinged now, but you know, we can work with it. So we need some simple logic here that says after we've collected a certain amount of items to go to the next increment. So I think we should say if number of items, let's just say, is greater than or equal to 5. We'll say number of items is equal to 0. But size of frog is going to be plus equal 1. There we go. Look at that! Size of frog is now 2, so we can see that the very basics of our logic are working. So now with this information we could do something like access the transform of our frog. Right now we're at 100, so maybe we can knock that up to Let's just do 150 and see how that goes. That's really cool. What's interesting though is that those big items get bigger. I don't know how I feel about that. It's kind of cool. I kind of also want those to stay small so you get that effect. We also need the camera to come out just a little bit if we're gonna do that. And maybe that's the trick, right? Maybe we can only see what is in the camera's field of vision. We can't see anything past that. So as soon as the camera kind of comes out a little bit, then we're exposed to a lot more of the world. And I think if we go with extremes, like we start really, really small and multiply Froggy maybe by say 1,000, we're gonna get to see a lot more than we would if we did just by 100 or something like that. So the next thing we need to do is focus on the camera shift, because the bigger we get, if the camera is still really close to the object, we're gonna run into issues and eventually we're not gonna be able to see our player. So we're gonna set a new variable called z-axis, and then we are going to get this value from this script, which is currently controlling how the camera is following the player. So now if I go over here, I can say that z-axis. Now I think it'd be kind of cool to build some walls to really go along with that leveling effect. So I can either kind of build walls or I can build platforms or different rooms. So let's start with walls and see how crazy we want to get. I think I have to come up with a way that's quite a bit more creative than just kind of like you're in this cardboard box and then now you're in a bigger cardboard box. I also need to find ways to limit the player to where they currently are so that they can't see what the next stage is, so that they're constantly being surprised by things. So I'm thinking something like this, some form of creative fencing around our main player, but that can be picked up after the frog is big enough. It's gonna have to be pretty big. So I guess we'll see how this works out. And it may not even have to be the same thing. It may literally not have to be fencing, but just creative camera movements with props that are in the game that are built into the scene, so it feels a lot more natural that you can't see past it. And maybe that's just the thing, is strategically placed props that block your view from the wider gameplay. And that may be enough, but let's just test out this mini version, see what we can get. Look at that, we are bigger Froggy already. Oh, even bigger Froggy. And look at that, the world comes tumbling down. Whoa. So as you can see, we're gonna need a formula to kind of account for however many objects we're picking up. If we're just using a static number, it's going to get exponentially bigger, because if your surface area expands, you know, exponentially because you're using a static number, you're gonna run into some problems pretty quickly. So we need to find a way to slow that process down. Oh my god. But I think the concept is pretty cool. I think if I have some like things in the background over here, we can start to get a real picture of how this is gonna play out. Even just doing that little tiny bit of adding the depth just makes things so much more interesting. You can see how quickly Froggy's gonna grow, and the more is gonna be in your field of vision. I mean, this is absolutely unhinged, but I'm kind of mesmerized, not gonna lie. This is really cool. I am definitely liking these mechanics. There's obvious things that need to be tweaked, but this is just kind of cool and mesmerizing, and I think fun. I think there's a lot we could do with the gameplay here. Love the gameplay of Katamari, but I want to do something that's new so the people who are fans of the series can play this and enjoy this, but that it can also kind of stand on its own as a game. And I think having something like this could really, really be intriguing for people. I think this kind of appeals to your lizard brain a little bit. Like, there's something kind of novel about this, and it really dives into that human instinct of like curiosity. And I think while this is a very simple example, once I have all the really cool things that are in there and we have different objects and the scene is 10, 20, 30 times as big, this could be really, really cool. So I really want to thank you for watching today. Hopefully this gave you some insights into wireframing. While I'm not the best wireframer, I think it's a really good exercise to decide how to make certain key choices in your game without investing a whole lot of effort. And while my code is really crappy and scrappy, I've gotten a lot of clarity today from this, and I think I know how to move forward now, and I'm really excited to move forward now. So the next part of this is just refining this and refining the gameplay, and then we're gonna work on adding in some really cool elements and actually building all of these scenes out. So I'm super excited. I really hope you stay with me for the journey, and thank you for watching.